From our Main Street newsroom, this is 2 News Live at 3:30.
Hot, dry with some light wind here in central Utah, prompting significant fire activity on the Widemouth 2 fire. This is a live look just east of Fillmore. We'll talk all about the activity we've seen here over the last couple of hours, and we speak to the town mayor here coming up in just a few minutes.
And the drought felt across the state. We have an expert weighing in as talks of draining Lake Powell continued and the Great Salt Lake drains itself. And how about this, the best video of the day, a bear family hanging out in a maple tree in a Mapleton neighborhood, how they got so far from home and what it takes to get them back safely away from people. Thanks for watching 2 News Live at 3:30 on this Tuesday afternoon. We have a lot to get to today. The top story this afternoon, though, where Brian Schnee is live on the Widemouth 2 fire. It is still burning and gaining ground. Unfortunately, firefighters are working hard to get containment, but that's hard to do with the fire growing as fast as it is. We want to go out live to Brian Schnee, where he's got the very latest on those firefighting efforts. Brian.
Heidi, the Widemouth fire is widening, and it has done that over the course of the last couple of days. Fortunately, staying within its containment lines right here, which is good. We saw them absolutely hammering this ridge line with fire retardant, hoping it would hold. Gnarly terrain, very difficult to get to. And over the last hour or so, this middle part of a canyon area has just exploded into really significant fire growth. It is remarkable to see. It is also daunting for everyone here in town over the last couple of days, but between Kanash and Meadow and Fillmore City, everyone is staring at this, wondering how will this react to the weather? And that is a very good question here. Hopefully we'll get some clarification from Chase Thomason as we look throughout our forecast here coming up. But that is the significant viewpoint, if you were to see here east of Fillmore right now, very visible from I-15. We already know the impacts over in Sevier County, Heidi, so it's also visible from I-70 here. But significant fire growth as expected here because of the afternoon conditions. They talked about this in the morning briefing and also to members of the media around 1:30 this afternoon. So this is not unexpected, but it is definitely putting on a show this afternoon.
So, Brian, the good news is we haven't lost any homes from this fire, which is surprising when you see a lot of people's pictures. A lot of times when you have these wildfires, they're far enough away that people have pictures. You see a little bit of a glimmer of that fire in the background. But a lot of people are taking pictures where it looks like the fire is looming large, is moving close towards them because it is so close to I-15 and I-70. Do we know how far away homes are at this point for others who are still on that evacuation notice?
Well, I'm glad you asked about homes and properties. We did ask some of the fire information folks a little bit more specifics about that. We do have the impression that there was some structural damage. Now, I'm not saying homes here, but there are other, cabins and sort of off the grid properties that are sprinkled in here in this 10-mile stretch we're talking about. They haven't been able to get in there and survey it. So to say there's no or to say there's some, that's tough right now because I think it's very clear nothing impacted here within city limits perhaps, or even stretching into that area where the evacuation zones have started for those on the outskirts of Fillmore City. But there is a chance. They just can't get in there right now because the fire activity is far too dangerous.
And Brian, over the weekend, we were hearing a lot of talk about trying to avoid stops there on I-15. We know as a lot of people have that thoroughfare trying to get down to southern Utah or back, asking people not to rely on gas station stops along there because they didn't know where the fire was going to move. Are we getting those warnings still this week, or did that really kind of end over the weekend, whereas that concern was about people stopping and using those facilities along the way?
I don't think there's that concern anymore. We did see a lot of people using the facilities at the south side of Fillmore today. For example, we did when we got up this morning, and that's exactly where we went. I don't think there's any reason for people not to be patrons here. Sometimes there's that balance of safety and such. That was a few days ago. That fire activity has shifted significantly to the east, the southeast, and then of course we see it here, again, burning within the confines for now. So we're waiting to see that. But again, there was no one really stopping per se that we saw over the last couple of days, other than people just fueling up, getting back on the road, that sort of thing. But I think those areas closest to the freeway, we've talked to some of those business owners as well. They feel pretty good right now, thanks to the hard work from fire crews. I want to get to the Fillmore City Mayor here, Mayor Kurt Hare. And Kurt, first off, New Englander here. I called it a town, so please don't go after me. Fillmore City here. Kurt, really quickly, this fire activity along the ridgeline, you were mentioning to me before our conversation, that is what's most concerning.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that has burned up through our watershed. And my concern is if this crests over and comes across the face of Mount Catherine, we have several drainages here which will cause us some very much concern in the case of rains or the winter runoff.
And I'm glad you mentioned those areas. We'll talk about what comes next in just a moment, but everyone wants to know about the latest with the evacuation potential. We talked to the sheriff yesterday. Anything new this afternoon as it stands?
Well,
we've been
it was like
evaluating it
still, but I think it got warm enough. He was like,
spent a couple hours this morning taking a look at it. We're cognizant of the impact on our business owners, especially our largest business owner. That's currently in a go status with the evacuation, and so really evaluating that and the risk to that so we can get his business back running and people back to work. So we're also taking a look as where it's going and preparing for what if for the next evacuation zones. Right now, we've been very fortunate. Only a few areas are on a go area, but we have a lot that are on the set being ready to go at a moment's notice.
Something you said last night touched me, and it was about the city of Beaver reaching out to help you. And you mentioned that during the public meeting last night. Let's use that as a segue. Beaver has been flooded. Yes. We know all about what's happened because of the Cottonwood fire, and that could very well continue for months or years to come. You're already looking at the potential for flooding.
We've already started, even before the fire is out. We've been talking with the federal officials, being able to make sure we got permissions to enter the land. We've been talking with county and with state resources to get the equipment that we need. We know the drainages and what they can potentially cause. We had a fire here about 4 years ago. We do have some structures over here, so we're feeling kind of okay about that. But as it progresses, we're worried about other drainages. And as you've seen with Beaver, it doesn't take much because without the vegetation, that all comes straight down and brings a considerable amount of debris with it. And we just are trying to prepare the best we can. Even before it's out, we're going to get equipment in there very quickly.
Thank you very much for a few minutes.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you making the time while so much is going on here in the city as you continue to look at what's going on the hillside here and into those canyons and just beautiful terrain. It's hard to watch. We've had people stopping by here, taking pictures, but also sharing their stories. It is a hard balance. Obviously, it's difficult. You want the thing out yesterday, Heidi, but you can't do that with how Mother Nature has picked up things in the afternoon. And also it's extremely dangerous for fire crews. We also saw this on the Babylon fire in southeastern Utah. Just difficult terrain, and safety for the firefighters and the public is always top of mind. Back to you.
Safety certainly top of mind. Brian Schnee live for us this afternoon. Thank you at the Widemouth 2 fire. We're talking about Mother Nature and how it plays a huge role, and maybe the main role here in fighting these fires. They were talking about the concern of this fire burning and then eventually the flash floods. And unfortunately, Mother Nature is going to help and possibly hurt in the days ahead.
Yeah, this morning a little bit cooler, really across northern and central Utah. So that probably helped fire behavior just a bit. But right now, temperatures are a little bit warmer. The winds have been increasing. I want to show you, though, what our current winds are near some of our fires in central Utah. That's where we're seeing winds around 10 to 20 miles per hour. So generally, the smoke and those embers are pushing towards the east. So really bad air quality for our friends in Richfield and Salina, Loa. But of course, in some of those canyons, you can get different wind patterns. But a little breezy right now. And there's also the Black Canyon fire that's burning east of Ephraim and west of Huntington. And that's where we're also seeing those winds around 20 to 25 miles per hour. So it's a little breezy this afternoon, Heidi. It's dry and it is hot, especially in central Utah. We're seeing lots of 90s right now.
All right, that break was nice this morning. And unfortunately, now we're going to be watching for possibly more lightning, which starts fires, and the rain that could help a little along the way.
Yeah, I want to show you real quick our chances, at least for rain here in northern Utah. You'll notice for tomorrow and through the weekend, at least for the valleys, at 0%. But some of that monsoon moisture begins to increase down in southern Utah. That's going to be our next weather maker, and you'll notice in the mountains those storm chances beginning to go up just a bit. And it looks a little bit more active for next week, and we'll talk more about that on 2 News at 4.
Okay, he's saying there's a chance, but not a very big one at all.
You know, it's that monsoon moisture where we see those pop-up thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Typically in the summer, of course, they originate in the mountains first. But again, when we get more moisture, those rain chances will be going up.
Okay, we'll be paying close attention to that. Chase, thank you. A lot more to talk about here on 2 News Live at 3:30. Thousands of fish died or were left struggling along the shoreline at a Colorado state park. Officials say it happened after a nearby lake was drained there. So there was fish all along the shoreline there. Fish were swept from Horseshoe Lake into Boyd Lake. They say that happened through a connecting inlet there. Unfortunately, we've seen similar scenes in Beaver County at the Minersville Reservoir, where we got video last week of dead fish all along there too. So definitely sad to see. Sound familiar? We've covered the drought challenges here. We're talking about them at the proposal to drain Lake Powell to help protect Lake Mead ultimately. And in just a few minutes, we're going to talk with an expert from the Great Salt Lake. Institute about water conservation and what lessons can be learned from our drought seasons here in Utah. We've certainly had some really wet years and dry years as well. So we will be talking about that in the days to come. Leonardo DiCaprio and Jeff Bezos apparently getting together and rubbing all their dollar bills together with $200 million in an effort to help save 100 endangered species from extinction. The Phoenix Species Project is going to fund conservation work around the world, from rare animals to threatened plants. Hopefully money can save them. Conservationists say the money could make a major difference in habitat loss and pollution. Online, though, people are talking about this, and they say just stop flying your big jets, and that'll help save the world too. Well, right now we want to talk about a little good news. We could use a little bit about that. Jonathan May is here with our web team, and this is my favorite story of the day and the best video you've got right here.
Yeah, as you can see, two black bears, well, a mama bear and her black bear cubs, 15 to 20 feet up a tree here in Mapleton. Now a nearby neighbor here in Mapleton kind of went outside, saw these bears, took a video. He said it's been about 12 and a half years since, or he's been living there 12 and a half years, and he's never seen black bears down there like this.
They're gorgeous. When I look at them, I always wonder what kind of shampoo and conditioner they use, because they're so shiny and beautiful. Do we know if they were relocated or what happened after they were spotted there?
Yeah, so the fellow that did take this video, he did say that DWR state wildlife officers did come by, were able to safely remove the bears and get them to their more natural habitat.
Okay, that means they took a bear nap and then were moved. I always wonder what it feels like to wake up someplace else after they put you to sleep and you're like, where am I? What's going on? Another story we're talking about online,
yes.
Not as great a news, though, for a little guy and his Pokemon cards.
Yeah, it's a bummer for the people in the Pokemon community for sure. So we had this family, they took a road trip to Colorado, and most kids are on the iPads. He just had his Pokemon binder in the back seat, drove 7 hours. They went to go see a Colorado Rockies game. While they were in the game, someone did break the window, steal the binders where these Pokemon cards were located. And yeah, now the family's been kind of calling for help to see where they could have gone, to prevent, calling nearby card shops to say, hey, watch out for this if anyone's trying to sell you some Pokemon cards, so they can maybe get those cards back. And yeah, it's devastating.
Mostly just meaningful to these kids, or were some of them worth a ton of money? Because I know some of them are.
I don't know the exact value, and they are under 10, these two Pokemon collectors, so maybe since they're newer, we don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the old 90s stuff. That's where the money is.
All right, I'm still learning my Pokemon information. They're adorable. I hope they get their cards back. All right, Jonathan, thanks so much. Coming up next year, we're going to be talking about the Great Salt Lake, efforts to save it, and also what you need to know if you're living here in Utah and want to visit the shores of the Great Salt Lake. It is time for 2 News Lessons, and a lot of people are talking online right now about, as they go onto the Antelope Island at Great Salt Lake, they're seeing that the marina doesn't really exist as it used to. They drive out there and see all the boats docked there, and now it's just dry lake bed. Joining us today to talk more about this is Georgie Corkery with the Great Salt Lake Institute. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think a lot of people are kind of surprised as the water keeps getting lower and lower. If you're like me, I grew up in the 80s, and we would actually go swim at the Great Salt Lake. There was a water slide there. And so I think people are used to that. And now when people are going out there, they're actually seeing that the boats that were there have just largely disappeared that used to be on cranes. Is this something that we're seeing around the entire lake?
Yeah, well, specifically at Antelope Island, the marina, it's been dried up for at least 5 years, if not 10. So boats have not been parked there. And then there's Great Salt Lake State Park Marina, and that's the same situation this year. Last year they actually had something called Sail Fest, and this year they had to call it Lake Fest because no sailboats could be in that marina because of the low lake levels.
So is there nowhere that you can actually launch a boat and get it in at this point unless it's already on the water?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not a boater myself, but the marinas that I've been to, you cannot have boats there. And I haven't seen sailboats out there for a while.
You're an ecologist, so you pay attention to the lake. We know about the brine shrimp, the brine flies. What's changing with them and the ecosystem that's in the lake as we're losing more and more water there?
Yeah, so the main thing to think about here is as the lake level goes down, the salinity level goes up. And the critters that live in the lake, they do something called osmosis, so that regulates the amount of salt in your body. We do it too, but if the lake is too salty, those critters can't survive. So we have the brine shrimp, the brine flies, nematodes, which is a new discovery, and if it's too salty for them, they can't survive, which means that the birds that visit from all around the globe in the Western Hemisphere, they they don't have anything to eat. So ecologically, that would be a disaster if the salinity level gets too high.
I'm going to read to you a comment of someone who was online. They said 4 years ago, the last boats were lifted out of the marina by crane due to dropping water levels. Now there's nothing but dry lake bed in both directions. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of really turning it around? We hear the governor and other people talking about how we're going to make the Great Salt Lake great again. But when you look at saline lakes around the world where you're talking about the Dead Sea or other places, it doesn't seem like when they're losing water that anyone's able to turn it around and make sure the lake levels are going back up again.
Yeah, maybe I'm just a chronic optimist, but I do think that Great Salt Lake could be the first saline lake that comes back from desiccation, from these low lake levels. Around the world, you said it correctly, there has been saline lakes that have dried up, and we're heading in that direction, but we have so many efforts going on right now. They're mostly policy, but also conservation efforts, thinking about water outdoors, conserving that water. I think there's a chance that we can reverse the shrinking of Great Salt Lake as an ecologist and an optimist.
I like ecologists and optimists together. Georgia Corkery, thank you so much for joining us. I wish we had more time. I hope we see that happen as well. I would like to go swimming in the Great Salt Lake again. I'm going to call you up on speed dial.
That sounds great.
It's time to go. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We have to talk a little bit more about other issues people are talking about online. And another one right now, people are leaving trash on the trails. Who does this? Well, somebody is. A photo online shows trash that's left along the trail to Ogden Botanical Gardens. It's sparking conversation online about whose fault is this and who's cleaning up. One of the comments online right here says, I don't want it to criminalize being homeless, but they do need to be accountable for all the litter they leave. That was from Jude online. The question, too, is whether this is homeless or people having parties up there, a lot of beer cans and cases. So whether someone's living up there or having a party, who knows, but it's all getting left behind. Residents are debating who's responsible, whether more needs to be done to prevent this, or whose fault is it anyways to actually clean it up. We've reached out to Ogden City Parks and the Cemetery Division asking about what they're doing to handle a lot of this trash. Another comment coming from a Facebook user says, again, they don't want to criminalize it, but they want to figure out exactly what's going on with all of that trash on the trail. If we get those answers back from Ogden City, we will certainly let you know exactly what they have to say about it. Another anonymous user says, it looks like someone had a party up there, didn't clean it up. Odd how people immediately jump to blame those unhoused that are up there. So again, difficult to say where all of that garbage is coming from, but there certainly is a lot. Hey, if you're hiking up there, bring a garbage bag with you, make it a service project and bring some of it down with you until that problem is solved. Another issue people are talking about online right now is a water valve. It's apparently been leaking in Salt Lake City on 6 South. And this has been going on for weeks. The people have been paying attention to this, say that nobody's fixed it along the way. And we all know how important our water is drop by drop, and we're being asked to conserve as well. We want to look at those comments online for you. Local reports of that water leak on the 6 South exit. There's water on the north side of the road. They're dumping thousands of gallons of water out every single day. So this is a concern. One of those people said they actually were doing the math with how long this has been going on for. And they said that if it were like a hose, it'd be 800,000 to 1.4 million gallons of water based on the flow rate. So that is a ton of water they're dumping. Just so you know, if you do live in Salt Lake City, they have a Salt Lake City app, and you can actually use your GPS coordinates to let the city know where you see a problem and report it to them. Thanks so much for all your comments. We're paying attention and listening to you online. Coming up, we are going to be talking more about that Widemouth 2 fire with Brian Schnee in Central Utah. We are following some breaking news at this hour on 2 News Live at 3:30. Twin Falls Police, where that deadly shooting happened at the In-N-Out over the weekend that killed 3 people and injured 7 others. We're finding out today that one of those victims who was shot and killed by that shooter at the In-N-Out in Twin Falls over the weekend is a Salt Lake City man, Dale Schultz, 66 years old, of Salt Lake City, Utah. I was just searching in the commercial break online for more information about him. It looks like he's connected to the Madeline Choir. We're going to be finding out more about him. As soon as we have that information, we'll bring it to you. Our condolences to his family and friends. Absolutely tragic situation coming out of Twin Falls, Idaho this weekend. Again, 10 people were shot, 3 of them dead. That Salt Lake City man is one of them. We do want to go back out live right now to Brian Schnee, who's in central Utah right now, talking about the Widemouth 2 fire that keeps growing and growing. This one's been moving quickly, Brian.
Heidi, it has. It's been moving quickly, but this side, as much as this is a startling image for so many, this has stayed within the confines of what they were working on yesterday. This helicopter has been in the area over the course of the last few days. The first time we've really seen it here today. There's a retention pond directly below where that helicopter is. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of water in it, but they're trying to get everything out that they can. And they've been using that ridge line up there, Tim, the one that we showed earlier with the mayor. That's the area of his concern, and that's the general location of where that helicopter was just working. You can head back to that helicopter as you like, Tim, and then we'll send things off to 2 News at 4 o'clock. But here is a live look in Millard County east of Fillmore this afternoon, and we are continuing to monitor the conditions of the Widemouth 2 fire, which is impacting both Millard and Sevier County. 2 News at 4 starts now.